All right, 5 o'clock on a Monday. You know what time it is? It is time to hit the books, part of the Hammer Betting Network, alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish, producer extraordinaire, Zach Phillips on vacation. Jason, nice enough to fill in for him. I am merely Brad Powers. Before we talk, obviously, we can talk some Michigan recruiting, which is getting hot yet again for Michigan. I'm kind of joking with that. Before we get to your questions, comments, talk bets, talk week one, talk season win totals and whatnot. Before we get into any of that, let me remind everybody that Hit the Books is brought to you by BetStamp. The easiest way to improve as a sports bettor is to use multiple sports books and always get the best odds. We recommend using an odds comparison tool like BetStamp. BetStamp compares odds across every sports book for games, futures, and player props. You can save time and money by checking BetStamp before you bet. Download the app today. If you are looking to sign up for a new sportsbook account, please check out the offers available at betstamp.app/hitthebooks, or you can hit the link in the description. If you sign up through this page, it does help support the show. Knish, I already mentioned it. Looking dapper there. Got a nice cut. You're getting ready. We're about 6-7 weeks out here. Season's
Yeah, you know what? It's like how some of the girls do the summer beach diet before going in. I'm on the college football diet. I got to drop a few. Get the hair in line. New rumors, new sponsor maybe for the show this fall here that we'll be releasing here soon in the next couple weeks. But and thank you, Chuck. It's when you're actually sitting up, you tend to have a little bit better posture. So back's feeling good, baby. I'm getting back into great clips, actually. Great clips. I'm on my girl Gina at Great Clips hooking it up. So she did a nice job. But good to be. I can feel it getting closer. I saw a BP service release today. Market's steaming a little bit on that, and then here we go, baby. Ready to get the season rolling.
Yeah, it's a little early. I mean, for week one, but I thought I'd test it out, make sure everybody's on their toes, see how fast stuff's going to move, make sure everybody gets it. So yeah, we released our first week one play today, so that'll be good there. Let's just dive right into it. I mean, the chat was active to say the least. A couple hours even before the show. Trevor is first. That's a first for Trevor being first one. Caesars, I had seen this. 2 alternate lines open up for a majority of Power 4 teams. Super juicy, but Clemson under 10 minus 400. As soon as they drop to Georgia, they'd have to go winless, not to push at minimum. I haven't dived into them. I'm a couple people told me that there might be some value there. Have you hit any of these alternates? Obviously, but I mean, I'd rather we had under 9.5 at minus 130, 10 at minus 400. I don't know what the math's adding up there. You're better at math than me.
No, but I agree with you there. And as you said, I mean, Clemson under one of my favorite that we talked about on the show. One of the favorite Power 5 win totals. Under 9.5. Because I agree. I don't see a scenario where they're winning that Georgia game, especially with some of the early returns on how that is this Georgia, the Carson Beck offense and all that. But to lay minus 400 there, I think you're kind of chasing. I would rather, Trevor, I'd rather go out and lay it. I know, sometimes your mind gravitates toward no way this can lose. I'll pay a lot of juice for an under 10. I'd almost be looking for an under at the best price I can get, an alternate on the other way for an under 8.5 or something. Even if they're the type of team that, if I found a crazy price on a 7.5, I would sprinkle that, because I think there's a
wow. You were that down on Clemson.
I'm not. I think they have that type of variance in terms of maybe it's actually over for the Dabo regime, and the fact that they didn't really load up on any transfer depth. So I'm not too if they have a rash of injuries, what does this team look like after a few weeks? And I just think we've talked about it, multiple times. Just think the ACC's got a little bit, I think South Carolina's better. I think Louisville's live in that game. I don't think, these Clemson games, which were automatic dubs, NC State coming in, Wake Forest coming in. I know it's crazy. Stanford, a team that we're both high on. App State, a team that I think has a bounce back year. There's just more games on this schedule that for a team that's lined like this to lose. Whereas I think, Trevor, you know what? I would go a little bit the alternate way. Would I want to lay a minus 400, though? Probably not. Also, just the capital hold on that. Like, I know Brad plays more than I do. We both play a ton of future. You don't see us really laying that type of number unless it's really, really, really good. And I don't recall. I mean, what's the most you've laid on a team?
Maybe 200.
Yeah. I think there was a
190.
Temple one that we
Yeah.
played that was like minus 195 or something.
Yeah.
Other than that, just you're not getting a ton of ROI there, bang for the buck on that holding your money up for 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say a few things. Half wins right around 70 cents. Again, if you're really down on Clemson, just shop around. 9.5 still out there. You can lay like minus 150 under 9.5. I'd rather just play that if you're that down on the team. 2, this is in the weeds. This is real. You're never going to hear this from any other show, but there's been this Hurricane Burl has been going, the historic hurricane, earliest Cat 5. They never had a storm like this. It's supposed to be a super active hurricane season. What am I getting at is there could be a lot of cancellations. You know, they're pretty quick now, and they don't play through. They like to play through weather too much. Would you want to have your money tied up minus 400 all season when you got a Clemson team that's on the coast playing a lot of coastal teams? What if one of their games gets canceled? Then I had all that money held up for all that time just to get it back. I don't know if it's a proper ROI in that regard. So again,
agreed. And they won't pay you back out on that until the season. Almost any book.
Yeah, I mean, obviously get your money back, but they don't pay out till December, till the last regular season game's over. So I think we're going to have quite a few of them from reading the tea leaves as far as the hurricane. I'm not sure we're going to have a lot of. I think we might have 5 or 6 or more teams only playing 11 games this year. So that would suck for a guy that's bet almost every single team's win total. Yeah. So again, if you like under 10, I mean, I would just bet under 9.5 minus like 150-ish. That would be my recommendation there. I do think they lose to Florida State, they lose to Georgia, and one of the other teams, Virginia Tech, NC State, one of those will clip them. Austin in the chat. Guys, first time back after last season. I like to see it. Welcome back, Austin. Really liking Boise this year. Do you prefer over 9 wins minus 120, over 9.5 plus 110, or to win the Mountain West plus 140? Doing my quick math, over 9 minus 120, I think sounds good there. That certainly is the better one than 9.5 plus 110. I bet them over their win total. I bet them to win the Mountain West. I think they're about on a neutral field. They're at least a touchdown better than the second best team in the Mountain West. So I like Boise. I concur. I think I even bet them to make the playoff this year. So I do like Boise quite a bit for obvious reasons. Genty might be the best group of 5 player in the country. I like the coaching staff. I like Cutter calling the plays. I think they upgraded on the defensive side of the ball as far as who's calling plays there. I like the team quite a bit, provided Malachi Nelson comes close to living up to that 5-star billing. This is the best Boise. Is it a Chris Peterson Boise team? No, but it's maybe the best Boise team we've seen in the last 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the 9 120 is definitely better than the 9.5 110. Significantly so. However, if you want to make I'll just play devil's advocate. They do play at Oregon, at Georgia Southern in the non-con. Again, they should be favored over Georgia Southern and win that. But if you want to take the Mountain West price, you're kind of taking we've talked about it on the show a few times that there really isn't a second team, that the teams that have been live in the Mountain West in the Joey K Crystal Clear Air Conference for a while, the Utah States, the San Diego States, the San Jose States, even, Wyoming, Craig Bowl retires, a lot of those teams that were pretty live in a number of years, Logan, and I'll never forget, Logan, Utah until the day I bet, but they're all kind of on the down slope on this year, at least what it appears in the offseason. So I might talk myself a little bit into the plus 140 there.
I bet exactly at plus 140. I made that bet at plus 140.
So if you got that, that's probably the best of the 3 because I think it takes out the non-con variance of like maybe Georgia Southern pulls the upset at home, they lose to Oregon.
I hope not. I laid it.
I don't think so, but I mean, there's a chance you're sitting at 0-2, but then your plus 140 is still very, very live. And if anything, if they did start 0-2, we'd probably be doubling down on some better numbers there for the Mountain West. So, but I agree. I think either way you slice it there, Boise, obviously, they look good.
Hopefully they get after Georgia Southern pretty good. That's kind of a cool, not early.
I agree. That is an
I like
intriguing
games like
one.
that. No, I give you a couple. Coastal Carolina, Jacksonville State's a good week 1 matchup. Yeah, you'll say that I'm an idiot, but I think Eastern Michigan, even Massachusetts. I mean, it's a pick 'em. We'll get to learn about both teams at least. I like games like that. 20 MC20 in the chat. Please stop me before I place a bet on Iowa over 7.5. I mean, I hear you. There's not a lot of guaranteed losses outside of Ohio State on the schedule. They'll be favored in maybe 10 or 11 games. McNamara, I don't think it's going to be good to go. Now, they did get the insurance policy, that Sullivan kid from Northwestern.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just think they were, historically speaking, they were the only team in college football history to have that bad of an offense and win that many games last year.
Yeah.
Maybe they're much better this year.
Margin. We said by like 5 games or something.
Yes. No one. I don't think anyone had a winning record before with that kind of offense, and they won 10 games. So when you see something like that, maybe they're much better this year. But for whatever reason, game luck just isn't going to fall their way, and they lose 3-4 close games, and plus the Buckeye game. So, no, I'm not there with Iowa. Are you?
No. If anything, I'm up. I know
there's 8s popping up. People are buying the Iowa.
Right. Maybe they're on the other side of there. There's some people definitely on the other side of that coin in the market. So listen. I'll respect those opinions, but I just don't see it. I don't think Cade McNamara is. One of the things when he was leaving Michigan is they didn't know if he'd be healthy enough to play. I mean, even in the spring at Iowa last year, I don't know if he's going to be healthy, as you said, to play football again. And so then your offense, and the offensive line recruiting and the guys they have up front is not what it used to be. And I think the defense just can't be as good as it was last year. Plus they got some breaks with the schedule for sure. But when you have that kind of morbid offense, every game is losable. Illinois State is not a guarantee. I mean, you got Troy coming in. Those are not. I just don't think you can say this team has. And again, as you just pointed out, if you get the other side of the coin on that bad variance, as they got all the good variance last year, you could be looking at a team that's having trouble going bowling. So it would be under or nothing for me.
Former preseason publication I used to work for, Iowa 11th. Can you believe that?
In his PRs?
I think projected that in his top 40, not in the power rating. I think he's just projecting.
Some people are still stealing the market info there and placing wagers on it.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. Charles, usually first in the chat. Were you sleeping in, Charles?
Yeah, well, yeah. Hopefully you were, a little busy this morning because we didn't see it till the show.
Yeah, over under halves. Ollie Gordon has to sit out. Half. What are you taking? Ollie Gordon. Since you and I last talked, we didn't have a show last week due to Canada Day. Ollie Gordon gets. I don't get it. I don't get why any major football program doesn't have a car service, but he got busted speeding and drinking. Does he sit out? I don't know. I'm 50-50 if he sits out like the first half against South Dakota State. They got very tricky start of the season. South Dakota State and Arkansas both at home, both games they should win, but neither one of those games is a layup by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm not sure. It's early enough in the offseason where maybe he has some he has to, I don't know. He might sit out a first possession or something.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna. You got me. I would say under on halves. Maybe he doesn't get the start in that game, and then after they go 3-0, and South Dakota State, scores first, then he's back on the field, and they're like, oh my god, we can't lose. So maybe a series, but no. If they were playing, Missouri Tech Community College, then maybe they sit them out for it. But no, when you got a real game like that. Listen, it is what it is. I would say under for sure.
Charles also in the chat. Season's not too far away. Yeah, I mean we're closing in now. I think 6 weeks from Saturday is week
Yep.
0. Where are you guys at in your offseason prep? Still picking off win totals, coming back on some overreactions. Yeah, moving towards week 0, week 1. I'm wrapping it up. I mean, I'm not going to advertise the tout service, but I got my preview coming out on Wednesday. I'm looking to take a vacation or so coming up. So it's slow for me, but I tell you, there's some other markets opening up, like a FanDuel opening up to some FCS games and whatnot. I'm usually not getting to that until August. I mean, some of these sports books are forcing the issue on me where I gotta be prepping stuff a little bit earlier than I expected. But usually I take a couple weeks, or not even a couple weeks, a week off in July, and then work on some different stuff, different markets in August.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, you know what, we both try and, grab.
Did you get that bet in on that one? I'm not going to mention it at all. Did you get it in or no?
Well, I'll talk to you after the show on it.
All right.
But
I didn't see it move. I was curious.
So
Right.
I think both of us try and make some early entry. I do some running for a few guys here to, as we get a little closer if they want some. But I agree. A lot of like the prep work and stuff I need to do, like the readings and stuff like that is kind of closed out. I'll do some, people, our friend of the show 10 will put out some previews. I'll read through, those as they're coming out, or so as we get closer, some other people will put out some more preview stuff that I'll just freshen up on. But I'd say most of the market entry stuff is pretty much in now. And then maybe it ramps up a little bit a week or two beforehand when some additional liquidity gets in there.
I'll tell you what for the most part, what I'm betting, not news. It's starting to get the news cycle. Like, when the news broke on Utah State last week, I fired. Not that it was a big bet, because I remember all what happened with Northwestern last year when news broke. How'd that work out for betting win totals there? But I bet Utah State under 5.5 when the Gary Anderson stuff was happening. Maybe they'll have a couple guys transfer out. I mean, who knows? So that's the type of stuff I'm betting now. And then we're not too far out. I mean, a couple weeks, especially for those few week 0 teams, practice will be starting. So, I mean, I'll start focusing on actually reading about practice reports. So that's kind of the game plan there.
I was going to say some fall camp info is probably the next. If you have a big injury, quarterback injury, how does certain, we've talked plenty of Michigan this cycle, but I want to see, is the offensive line healthy? Who's getting reps at the QB? That type of thing. On some teams that might have more question marks at certain positions. So, yeah, the next thing is any major fall camp info or injury.
Austin in the chat, thoughts on Wake Forest over 4.5, Florida State to make the playoffs plus 185. I bet I bet a lot of teams, but Wake Forest over 4.5 is in my pocket. I made it 5. I'd like to know where the Florida State to make the playoffs is plus 185, because I'm looking. I can't find anything right now over 160. I'm not going to say anything more than that. You got any thoughts on either one of those?
I don't. To be honest with you, I don't. I don't love. I would say one. I agree with the first part. The Wake Forest. Yep. I like the over there. Lean with your position as well. Florida State. Am I lying? Am I running to the window even at 185? I know you're probably getting a best. I don't know where you're shopping it, but you're getting a best in market.
That is best in market number. I'm never going to tell anybody. No, fair. I'm best in market.
Fair, but of the, what?
I bet a little Florida State to win the ACC at 3-1.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more, and you know what? I think the schedule actually, plays out well for a couple of teams that I like in the ACC. They don't have on there. And again,
Clemson's at home,
right? We've already talked the Clemson themselves. So yeah, I wouldn't. You know what? I would agree with your statement that I'm not going to talk somebody taking a best in market price, even if I think the team maybe isn't as good as last year. The way the schedule sets up, and the fact that you're getting a good price, hey, I'm not going to talk you off it.
Yes, I think they're going to be a little bit better than expected. Even Norvell said this is his best team that he's had. I don't know if I agree with that. Last year's team had better depth, at least on paper, in my opinion. But I do like the frontline players. I think that defensive line, even though losing Verse and Fisk, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole and preview Florida State deep dive, but I think the defensive line is going to be better than expected. Peyton on the outside. They got a Georgia transfer, Marvin Jones Jr. that's going to be really good. They got some weapons there, provided they do an all right job with DJ, and I think they will. So I kind of bullish on Florida State season wide. 20 MC20 back in the chat. Brad, you guys didn't get to them on the other not to be named podcast. Oh, okay. I was confused there for a second. Curious to hear your thoughts on Arizona State. I can't see a path to 5 wins. Yeah, I can't either. The only hang up I would have on Arizona State would be, man, they were such a tough luck team as far as injuries last year. I mean, they had, I was rereading some stuff. I mean, they had a tryout for anybody on campus to play offense. And you hear it like for kicker and stuff. Like you hear that every year. They were anybody that's 300 pounds to play some offensive line snaps. That's how poor it was last year for Arizona State. And they didn't quit on the season. I mean, they still, they won a couple games down the stretch, almost beat Washington. Probably should have won that game if you rewatch it. They're in better shape across the board, but don't love the quarterback. And I think the schedule is a little trickier than expected. I don't think Wyoming, Mississippi State, or Texas State, you think, oh, there's 3-0 right there. I don't know if they go 3-0 in that one. I could see them losing a game or two there. Yeah. And then you look in the conference. I mean, they might only be favored in one conference game. So to get to the point, I bet under 4.5.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't see a lot to like. And I think the schedule, like there is not, what's a for sure win on this schedule at all across the board in the all 12 game. I mean, they don't have an FCS team. Wyoming isn't an easy, out. Just the way, the style they play can be a little tricky, especially probably a little more physical in the trenches themselves in Arizona State. And we've talked about it numerous times, the Big 12 for all it not having the elite tier, it's kind of still got a pretty middle tier. And you put Arizona State like pretty much in that bottom tier with BYU. And I know they got BYU at home. But the rest, looking at the rest of these games, and teams that I like a lot better than them, I'm struggling to see 5 and 7 here.
Yeah, markets also. I've seen some movement. I pretty much kept the lid and haven't talked too much on that, but I haven't. I'll just put it this way: I haven't been the only one betting under 4.5. So that seems to be a little bit consensus there. Charles back in the chat. Find any new people accounts during the course of the offseason that you'd recommend following for information. You're more active. I've becoming less and less active on Twitter. Did you find anybody?
I wish I could tell you. Not like, to be honest with you, I think the sources of info are less than I used to go. I think there's a couple of reliable people. They may not, and a lot of the info I get is not exactly on Twitter, but I mean, we've talked about it. Bill Connolly used to be a Godfather resource for stuff. He doesn't do as much anymore. A couple of other sources. I don't have a lot of, I wish I had some great recommendations for you. I think our guy, Stats of War puts out some good stuff. That if you're in the data, but other than that, I can't really recall somebody new since this offseason, between last offseason and this year, that I've been like, oh, I've got to look at this guy's college football stuff. I just don't have. I'm trying to think. I'd have to think about it. I'll ask around some people, but I got nothing for you offhand.
I think the K Ford guide, Kelly Ford or K Ford Power Ratings, he does a pretty good job. But man, this would be a quick old man thing. You got to sift through so much shit to get to anything anymore. I don't have the time for that. I mean, I'm sure there's some good stuff out there. I mean, how my timeline is just, I mean, I guess it's on me because it's all AI and stuff, but I'll just say my timeline compared to 5 years ago is lesser quality than what I used to.
We won't go into a Twitter rant, but I agree. Just the ability to find that stuff now is just harder. I agree. There's a lot more, if you're looking for NSFW material, you can find that pretty easily on Twitter, but good college football analysis, a little bit more difficult.
I see John was commenting thoughts on Kelly Ford ratings. He's been everywhere here lately. Yeah. I mean, they're actually pretty solid. As far as the power rating, I think he does a pretty good job. They're not too. Yeah.
Listen, if I'm going to be unbiased and give the Devils, I don't think he's a big better. I think his ratings and his data is pretty good. I don't know how involved he is in the market.
Oh
And
yeah, I'm not sure from a betting perspective. I
yeah,
agree.
so that's the only caveat I give people is some people put out great data, useful data. You can, if you're better chopping it up and stuff to use it. And for terms of people I like to recommend, I usually they have to have some type of betting market knowledge background to make me feel good about you're betting their plays, so or you're getting out their plays. But I think just from like I said, a ratings perspective, it's all right.
Agree with that. And Jason even mentioned doesn't bet. Yeah, I was just talking from a pure ratings. Boy, people that actually bet. I mean, again, it's, a lot of people don't. So, and it shows immediately. Fabulous one in the chat. Kansas State plus 400 to win the Big 12, plus 310 to make the playoff. Not much margin for error for the Wildcats. Yeah, I'd prefer the Big 12 one there. I mean, again, I don't know where he's 4-1s. I mean, I'm looking at like 12 different books right now. 4-1's about as good as I've seen. So, again, if you're taking best market number available, I'm not going to argue with that. Schedule's not bad for Kansas State. I'm not wild about the team, but man, if
Yep.
Avery Johnson is good, if he's a hit, that backfield's pretty good with him. Obviously, Edwards from Colorado's dynamic. DJ Giddens a good running back. I mean, if Avery Johnson can throw the football a little bit, they're going to be tough to stop offensively. Yeah, I mean, where are the surefire losses on that schedule? I
No,
mean, they
for
might be
sure.
favored in 11 or 12 games this year.
My only advocate there on the other side, I know I'm playing this all show, is like it's just not a conference I want to bet like the low prices in, because I think there's so many teams live, so many teams within a touchdown or 10 points of each other. Do I really want to bet 4-1? I'd rather, and just from a strategy perspective, hope that they, maybe they drop a game to Arizona, Oklahoma State early or something like that, and then you can buy them at, like a significantly inflated price after an early loss and then make it a market entry there. That would be my only counter there is it's not the type of power team that I want to, put a 4-1 on. Whereas, I think, in a couple of the other conferences, you pretty much know the 2 or 3 teams that are going to be there at the end of it for the conference championship.
Speaking of the Big 12, fabulous one in the chat. Baylor under 5.5 wins. Aranda dead men walking. I concur with that. There's disagreement in the marketplace. Your boy Tent likes the over. I mean, there's some variance there with the transfers. They certainly are a better team than last year, better depth, but I don't like betting overs on guys on the hot seat. No, I don't. Maybe backs cornered against the wall, and he does something like the West Virginia coach did last year, Neil Brown. I don't see it. I just don't. And that another one. Where are the surefire wins on that schedule? Yeah, give me the 6 surefire wins. Somebody's going to be losing some games here in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. I mean, there's so much parity. I just think that there's so much mediocrity almost in some instances. And they play Utah. Utah's a non-conference game, so that's basically 10 conference games, and it's on the road. So if you count that as a conference game, that's 10 conference games. 6 of them are on the road. Plus, they play Air Force. They got one layup game, the FCS game. Other than that, where are the layups? I don't see them. So under 5.5 for me.
Yeah, you know what? I would say if you're going to make the case, it's that of the teams you want to play in the Big 12, they basically got all of them. They got the BYU, they've got Houston, we're both down on TCU. But at the same on the other flip side is none of those are automatic wins just because they're in the bottom tier of the conference. Baylor's also in the bottom tier of the conference. It's just, they avoid a couple of the, the power teams at the top. But I agree, non-con, Air Force is going to be is a trade. They have to start 2-1. If they're going to win 6 games, they have to get the Tarleton State game. They have to get the Air Force game, and then go into conference play and hope that they, can beat a Colorado, beat a BYU, beat a Houston in that. I think it's one of those that's probably on the knife edge. They probably finish 5-7 or 6-6. But, gun to my head, if I'm leaning away, probably it depends. It's one of those, where's the juice laying and that type of thing. So, yeah, I don't have a strong feeling, especially where the number's at now either way.
We'll call that a head-to-head bet, me and Tailgate Tent there.
Oh, baby.
Yeah. Zach in the chat, really like the upcoming schedule from Mizzou. Do you think Drinkwitz is a legit coach who just had once in a career season at Mizzou? Well, I'll say this: they're spending money in Mizzou, so he might not have to be all that great. But with the way they're spending money, with the way they're recruiting, I don't think it's. I don't know if they're going to win. Have a bunch of 11-win type seasons. But are they going to go back to 6-6 seasons? No, I think those days are over with. And I agree with the schedule setting up nicely. They're going to be favored 9 or 10 games this year. They got it. I mean, look at that dream start. I mean, they're going to be a 3-touchdown favorite in the first 4 or 5 games. So I know a lot of people like under 9.5. I went opposite. I found an 8.5 and bet over.
Yeah, I'd much prefer over on 8.5, even laying some juice than the under not. But as you said, this sets up. I mean, there's not a lot of teams in the SEC that have this kind of dream setup where I think, as we've talked about, when you get into now in these mega conferences, the Big Ten, the SEC, where you're playing real teams, throughout the year, it's like they've got 3 cakewalks in the non-con, then Vandy, and in between Texas A&M and UMass. So you've got one real game the first 6 weeks of the season, so you can kind of, as long as even if you drop the game at Texas A&M, you're kind of setting up the second half of the year where you beat up on a bunch of cupcakes. You've had one real game. You should be in pretty good condition physically from a team-wise, gotten a lot of different guys' experience. Michigan used this play, and I'll go back to the last year. Through the first half of the season, they were able to play a ton of guys throughout the roster. Went into the second half of the year, almost no injuries whatsoever. That matters in these big, gauntlet seasons when you have a setup there over the first, half of your season is basically a preseason. You're setting it up for the end of the 6. So I like that from a Missouri bye perspective that maybe isn't factored into all the data. Just how the schedule falls is you're going to go into the second half of the season at worst 5-1, maybe 6-0, and probably in a pretty good spot to take on some of the more power teams there.
Agree. And obviously they built some confidence last year. The Buckeye win can be a program changer. Beat a program.
I wish Strader had one more. God, I know running back is not like your premium everything, but if they had him back one more year, they could have got it out of him. I would have loved to see him in this offense just one more year with the talent they've got coming back.
They got a couple of good transfers. That Marcus Carroll kid from Georgia State's pretty good.
Yep.
I think they'll be just fine. D-Lee23 in the chat. Do we really think the line for Georgia Clemson doesn't close north of 14 with all the Clemson negativity? Total seems too high. Looking back on the snooze fest from 3 years ago. Yeah, my numbers say 14. So I don't know. I think there'd be some buyback certainly on Clemson at 14.5. Don't you think on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, you'd have buyers just based on the number there. Week 1 on your priors and stuff. People, if it gets to 14.5, you'd have some buyback. But I agree. I mean, both of us have already bet the game. And you know what? There's still some flat 13 around at major books if you're interested in that. So yeah, I can't see it. It's not a huge value one because I think you'd have buyback at 14.5. But yeah, we're both down on Clemson and pretty, positive on Georgia. As far as the total, I don't love the Clemson offense, but obviously they're, when you say from 3 years ago, they're playing a lot different, schematic style and pace in that as they were. So, and I think Georgia's offense, year 2, I think it can be pretty electric this year. So, I think traditionally you'd be like, under, but that both the actual what I'm looking at coming into this year does not make me want to play an under.
Agree. Generally speaking, I would want to play the under in a big game week 1 out of the gates. But, compared to 3 years ago, I think both teams are better, significantly better on offense from what they had. So, it's just a pass for me on the total. Zach in the chat, how much do you worry about Mizzou's defense? Feel like drop off quite a bit, resulting in a 7 or 8 win season. Again, it could drop off. Again, where are the 4 or 5 losses on this schedule? I don't see them, man. I just don't. So even if it does take a step back, I don't see a bunch of games where they're going to lose there. Wesley Sims in the chat. Will Uncle Joey be on time? Oh, this is going back. No, it had nothing to do with Knish. Had to do with some big time news coming down as far as the bosses got involved. as far as sponsorships and stuff. So we had a big meeting prior to the show today. I should have got that one out of there. I'm sorry. I'll read anything on the teleprompter. Spammy Sosa on the chat. What happened in the last 24 hours to now make Dylan Gabriel the favorite to win the Heisman at most shops? Certain somebody. I'm trying to think. That rhymes with.
He pitched a tent outside Gabriel's backyard, and to post it up there. So, what do you think about that?
He won't believe me. I talked to him before the show. I told him I bet it last night. He's like, well, how do you know I was going to release it today? I was just like, that was probably I knew he was going to release some Heisman today, and I had wanted to get in front of it before it moved. And I had a sneaky suspicion that was going to be the play. So I bet Gabriel last night, and I'll tweet out the ticket. I don't care. Bet it late last night at 14-1 at Westgate Superbook.
Oh,
so
wow.
And probably my favorite Heisman. I've only made 10. I know it sounds 10. That sounds like a lot. A lot of years is like 15. And I'm not wild about this year's Heisman market, but I like the Gabriel bet. I complimented him on that pick, on that release, because I think that's the most sensible one.
Of the prices, like of the top, we'll call it, just as I'm looking, 6 or 7 guys, I think he'd be my favorite bet of that crop there. I need to see Georgia's offense be like electric week in, week out I don't think Carson Beck should be, even though I think it'll be good. They're still kind of a team that likes to just run, teams into the ground as they can. And a couple of these other, like Quinn Ewers, Will Howard, Lamaleva.
I don't like either one of them.
No. Part of the Heisman is I know those guys are on teams that are set up to be pretty good with a lot of talent. I don't think either of those players is really that good. So to me, like it's you've got to be, there's got to be an element of you being able to perform at a very, very high level throughout the entirety of the season. To me, Ewers and Howard have not really shown that ability throughout their career, where they're going to have a couple of down games, or Ewers hasn't been healthy for a lot of it. So of that top 5, top 7, I agree. I think that's a decent play.
Yeah, generally speaking, the problem with this year's Heisman is the pricing's not great. Your Nikos, your Jackson Darts, hell, even your Dylan Gabriel. I said I bet 14-1. Just a few years ago, he'd have been widely available 15-1. Just telling you what the price would have been on him. A guy like Nico would have been 40-1. A Jackson Dart might have been 25-30-1. What's he, 15-1 now? That's the problem with the Heisman market. Prices. I bet a few, but don't blame me on everything. I didn't think they were that good to begin with this year, as far as that. But thumbs up for him on the release on Dylan Gabriel. Have you seen some of his numbers when it's all said and done? Gabriel, he's going to set all these records: touchdowns, wins, passing yards. And it'll never be broken, I don't think.
And I think
you're talking basically about a 5-year starter.
How many of those graphics are you going to see this fall of him being the all-time college football? You know what I'm saying? It helps the narrative street for a lot of, your casual Heisman voter who's just like, oh, Dylan Gabriel, he's the all-time touchdown passing leader in the history of college football.
Yep.
Looks good for my Heisman vote.
Yep. Agree. Spammy in the chat, besides Boise State, who could you see playing for winning the Mountain West? Fresno, UNLV. That's about it. Wyoming's probably a little bit down. Air Force is a little bit down this year. Maybe Colorado State can rise up. I haven't seen it yet from Norvell. Nevada stinks. New Mexico stinks. Hawaii could be a shocker, but I still don't expect that. San Jose State's got a new coach. San Diego State's got a new coach. Utah State's got a new coach. Hell, like Boise. I just put it that way. Boise's the playing.
Yeah, there's just not that second tier of team this year. We've gone over it, and I know if you guys have been watching every week, you've heard us say it a few times. Mountain West is pretty down. So, and it's usually that these are the type. I will say, and I've got to give the market some credit. I expected in the G5 to have a lot more futures action. And I remember the night some of them came out and we were going, it's like, not really much I want to bet here, or I'm dying to bet here. I was kind of licking my chops like, oh, here we go. And there's not that. It's like, priced pretty right. So, and it's not. I just don't see, some of the second tier and a couple of the G5 conferences really being live or even remotely, in the conversation. So, yeah, I don't have any recommended bet in the Mountain West that I think is worthy of placing. So,
I took a little UNLV. I think 7-1. I thought they got a high ceiling with what the talent they have, but again, I mean, historically speaking, a team far exceeds expectations year one. Maybe you'll see some regression year two. So again, you're gonna make one. I'm not. Only one future needed. Might be the case for Boise State in the Mountain West this year. I mean, very disappointing season. They don't win it. Rick in the chat, what do you think about Texas under 10.5? Not many SEC teams win that many other than Alabama. I played under 10.5. Home underdog to Georgia. Not that it's a big underdog role. Could lose to Michigan in week 2. And are at Texas A&M to close. That's gonna be a war to say the least. Can you count on Sark to just win every single one of these games? Oklahoma still on the schedule. I under 10.5. Like it.
Yeah, I will. I played a little, and if we win good, I played a little.
Let's just. Are you okay with this? Because we don't have a best bet. Let's just Texas under 10.5 best bet.
I like it, baby. I'm with it. I'm going to add to it while we're talking here. But I was going to give you. Actually, took some game of the year on Texas A&M in that game. There was 5.5 out there. 5 at some places where Texas Tech or Texas A&M. And that game's at Texas A&M. Yeah, so you're telling me that Texas is a touchdown better, give or take, a half point there than Texas A&M on a neutral? I don't see it. I don't see. This is the guy. I don't know. Maybe I'm more anti-Texas than anybody out of, but like I think I think Michigan's very live in that game. I played that game. Played Michigan against them. So a couple of the game of year positions I've already taken were anti-Texas. So yeah, I just don't see it. I tell you what. I think we talked about this like 3 months ago. What do you think the like Arch Manning starts a game at some point this year?
Oh, I think I would bet greater than 50%.
I kind of think so too. I really just don't see the consistency in Ewers as a guy week. And Arch, I didn't see it early on, but he looked pretty good in the spring game. I don't know. I could see them. I don't know if they lose a game, if they lose to Michigan early and Ewers doesn't look good. I could see them, maybe making a little panic pull of the trigger there, but I agree.
I just took 5 with A&M against Texas, circa.
Yep.
Good bet. Good job, man. Under 10.5. So price-wise, because everyone's going to say, what's juice? I mean, obviously you're going to be laying some juice, like minus 150-ish, I think, in some spots. I'm okay with it. Again, I made it like 9.8, so I really like that bet quite a bit. Yeah. Texas under 10.5.
We both like Oklahoma a decent amount this, and not like, oh my God, they should be favored over Texas, but that's not
that line's too much. I bet Oklahoma in that game of the year line.
So I mean that you've got what I would call at least 4 very potential losable games right there, and then you'd have to. I mean, you've got to win 3 of those 4 to go over, and then just be clean the rest of the year. So. I like.
That's asking a lot.
That's asking a whole lot.
Yeah. There we go. Like it. I always thank you to the chat for coming up with the best bet, because we'd have been scrambling here in 10, 12 minutes to wrap up the show. But yeah, I like that one quite a bit. Mason in the chat, thoughts on Nebraska over 7.5. Notice it's taken some money lately. I've noticed that too. Good candidate for positive regression. You could have said that the last 7 years. In turnovers and 1 possession games, 8-30, I think, is the mark. Last 38 one-possession games, they've gone 8-30. Would love your thoughts. I hear you on that. True freshman quarterback. They're going to be favored in probably their first 7 games. You're going to be like looking at the schedule. Yeah, 7-0, baby. I think the only surefire loss on the schedule is the Buckeye game. I can't get there. I cannot. A team that hasn't had a winning record in 7 years, and now you got them going 8-4. I don't see it yet. I mean, until I think that Colorado game is going to be so big. That has to be a win there. Otherwise, it's going to be here we go again in week 2. Can't wait for that game. But I'm not there. In fact, if I had to bet it, and I have bet it, under. 8-4 is asking a lot of a young quarterback.
True freshman quarterback, OC. Neither of us or a lot of people that are in the business don't really love. I agree. I think, program wise, they seem to be heading in a more positive direction.
Yep.
And I know someone else asked about the tent Matt Rule comment. I'm not there on thinking I think he's still a good program builder. I don't love the coordinator hires he's made, but I think he's still a good program builder and wouldn't be afraid to, if they don't have a great offensive year this year, could I see them, switching it up? Then sure. So, but to me, I agree. It's asking a lot. I think there's some sneaky games on that schedule, Rutgers, Indiana, as we've talked about, that are a little tougher, even if they'll be a short phase. So yeah, I'm not betting on this team to go 8-4.
Yeah, I'm not either. Indiana can be sneaky. I went to their spring game. I bet under 5.5 originally because I just thought, hey, this team's going to be decimated the portal. How do they win 6 games? Watch their spring game. I'm like, I made a mistake there with that bet. So, yeah, I don't see a lot of surefire losses. I don't see a lot of slam dunk wins. Oh, yeah, I can trust Nebraska to win this game because, just because I got them priced as a 6-point favorite. We've seen how that goes. It doesn't matter who the coach has been the last 5-6 years. Arthur in the chat. There's rumblings Buckeyes will try to make a Heisman campaign for Caleb Downs by giving him snaps at running back. Worth a taste at 150 to 1. 4+ rushing touchdowns, 6+ picks, fumbles, recoveries. Get him in the mix. I bet a defensive player about 8 years ago, a Florida State kid, because I watched in the spring game, they were giving him snaps. Derwin James it was. I'll never bet a defensive player again.
Yeah, I don't. Especially at safety, where it's just like you can have a great game at safety and have almost no stats. That's the problem where it just not going to end. I don't really I know there's been that rumor, they've got a couple of guys already that they need to feed back there to give Downs some extra carries out of that backfield. And then if you get him dinged up when he's playing offense, usually you see a guy if he's maybe returning kicks or something like that, but he's not even going to do that. So no, I wouldn't spend money on that. 500
to 1, maybe not 150.
Yeah, right.
And even then, there's so many guys. The reason I didn't bet a Buckeye to win the Heisman, there's just so many guys to choose from. No, they don't like that one. Onion Man in the chat, thoughts on UCLA? Took some under 5.5 -150. Really like it. I think I'm in the fade position on UCLA this year, to say the least. Took some. I know nobody cares, but the win totals were up already when the Chip Kelly news broke that he was going to leave. So that's how long these win totals have been up at certain places like FanDuel.
There is a chance, and again, I know we've bet Hawaii week 1. I don't know, are they really going to?
We're not the only ones there. It seems like the whole world's betting Hawaii.
Yeah, and that was one of what was the game last year? It was Washington State. Who were they playing? Week 1, where everybody faded Washington State. Yeah, Colorado, and then Washington State beats them by 80 points. Yeah. It's 49-0 at the halftime, but there is a chance. Let's say they go. Let's play, devil's advocate here. They lose that game. We could be talking about and then you've got to be the UCLA team that's going to Nebraska in November. And then you've got, you got
LSU.
Yeah, right. Right. They've got LSU, Oregon, Penn State right in a row there. And then you've got end of the year.
What's that roster look like at the end of the year?
I'll go. There's a chance this is a 3-9 football team that could flirt with 2-10 if things go as bad as possible.
One of the Chip Kelly did not do a good job recruiting. Did a good job in the portal, but as far as building that roster through high school recruiting, not there. I don't know if they got depth. And I know you think, it ain't that. The plane trip even to Hawaii is significant. In the plane ride from LA to Hawaii. So that's a lot of cross country traveling for UCLA. with a new coach and new coaching staff that I'm not wild about. No, I'm selling them. We're not the only ones either. Brendan in the chat, Utah State under with the coaching news. Yeah, it's a bet that I made. Again, I didn't, hammer it big time. I just figured, that I'm not going to be the only one thinking to bet this under. Might as well get in front of a move. It's going to move at least a half win. And I've seen it at a few shops. It's moved from 5.5 to 5. I just, in those situations, you just bet news. I mean, you got to take a pessimistic approach. Although I will say, did the same thing with Northwestern last year. It didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Get one of those if you bet it on the news, no disagreement. But those are ones that, like, you know what, if you've got a decent another guy in place who can take over, then maybe it doesn't matter as much. But one that I agree. I think it's just one of those. If you got on top of it, good for you.
It's very similar to Northwestern last year. They got a new defense corner. Northwestern had a new defense corner last year. Comes over from New Mexico State. He's going to take over. I wasn't that wild about Anderson. I know he's had some success at Arkansas State, some success. He won the Mountain West his first year at Utah State. But, I mean, I might not have to be too big of a negative there. So, who knows with kids on that one. So, again, I think it's a decent edge, not a big one. Anthony in the chat, Anthony, any value on Oregon plus 1.5 against the Buckeyes? Yeah, I mean, I made Oregon the 1.5 point favorite, but we're talking through 0, nothing key there. Again, sure. I mean, I would make that bet, but I don't think it's a significant edge. Where are you on that one?
Yeah, I think around, one either way pick is kind of right. So that's one I wouldn't want to place, this early in the year. So yeah, I think it's just kind of a wait and see, leave it alone for now.
We'll get to a few more questions here. Last 5 minutes. SMU steamed 4 or 5 points week 0, assuming BP a part of that move. Yeah, but I bet that game 3 months ago maybe. So if it has been steaming lately, I didn't give it out. So somebody's hitting these games, just not me. I like that one quite a bit. I might try to go to that game, believe it or not. Got to load up the accounts there in Reno. It's a week 0 game. It'd be a nice time for week 0 to head up there, maybe catch a game. Tom in the chat, Nebraska make the playoffs 15-1.
No.
Ooh, yeah, I'm no,
don't do that.
A lot of them playoff markets. Again, we have said this. If they're going to keep them up all year, let's get involved during the season. Maybe.
I mean, what's the best case? I mean, 9-3. With a true freshman quarterback, you're going to go 10-2 to get into the playoff. You probably have to go 10-2, and they can win 10 games. Come on now. Don't bet that. Yeah, I would need 50-1.
Yeah. I see a lot of Knish. Yeah, I see. I'm going back to the chat when we were first starting. Knish was not late. He was early. We had a meeting. And there he goes. Thoughts, Phil in the chat. Thoughts on South Alabama minus 6.5 week 1 against North Texas. I like that bet. And I made that bet. So as we lost Knish here, hopefully he comes back. But yeah, generally speaking, I think South Alabama, the first year coaches, is in a little bit better spot than the other first year coaches as far as the roster. All right, looks like Knish's computer died. For those that are watching live, we lost Knish. Looks like his computer died. But back to South Alabama, North Texas. I mean, it's not a big high value pick as far as power ratings wise, but we're on a key number. We're below it. North Texas got a lot of question marks. Chandler Morris has got to be a hit for them at quarterback. Otherwise, they got nothing. A lot of roster turnover for the second year in a row for their coach. And again, I look at the coaching transition. Should be pretty seamless for South Alabama with Major Applewhite. So Knish will be back in 1 minute. Laptop died for him. So, yeah, I do like South Alabama. I've laid 6.5. That is certainly a bet that I made. Trevor in the chat, what do you guys think about NC State getting a touchdown or higher at Clemson? If you're a longtime follower of the show, we gave out NC State against Clemson. That was one, I think they were getting close to 10 there. When we gave out Clemson under their win total, that was a bonus bet there. So make sure you're watching these offseason shows. Contrary to popular belief, the market reacts to us a little bit. And we do give out, I think in some instances, probably more than we should. At least, tailgate's not appreciative of sometimes us giving out a few more plays than we should. But yeah, that was one that we took advantage of there. looking over Ryan in the chat, looking over the Big 12, was surprised how deep and talented their quarterbacks are this year. Sanders, Johnson, Rising, Beck, Green, KJ, Daniels. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why the Big 12, as far as the competitive aspect, is as good as I've seen at the Power 4 level in years. I mean, I got 10 teams power rated within a touchdown, and we got a lot of good quarterback play. I think that, again, we've said this. That is the conference. If you want to bet futures, you want to bet a little to win a lot, that's the one to go with. If you like an Oklahoma State, you like a UCF, you like a TCU this year, any of those teams, I think, could make a run and win the conference. Knish, you all powered back, man? What happened?
Yeah, you know what, Joe? I was so worried about the posture here that I forgot to bring my charger up. So, I was sitting at the table and didn't bring the charger with me. So I thought it was showing 10%, and then boom, I'm out. So, but no, we're plugged in and ready to finish her out.
Yeah, just a couple more. I'm glad we got to this because I did want to mention this and I forgot. Isaac in the chat. I don't know if you saw this. FanDuel, Michigan, win total 8.5.
I saw the comment and looked. I will let Isaac. We're going to be laying in the weeds, like a couple of guys ready with our bullet and ready to fire there. Let's wait, though. Let's just.
You think it's going to I think it's going to become more market. I won't say fully consensus, but I think we'll have 4 or 5 books when it's all said and done at 8.5.
Let's see just a little. They're one of the teams. Let's see a little bit of fall camp. Need to make spring. We had like 4 or 5 offensive linemen hurt. Let's just wait a little bit. Hey, listen,
firing over 9.5 against me. 9.5.
We're coming off a national title. We were. This is early on here. Now we're making educated decisions for the people. And so let's Isaac. Just let it marinate a little, baby. Don't you worry. Joey K will get you the good Michigan goods, and then we'll make the move.
Eat that in the chat. Thoughts on Ole Miss over 9.5 minus 115, Utah 9.5 minus 135. I would lean both of them. I have not bet either one yet, though. Maybe I'm getting old man syndrome. I bet a lot more unders than overs this year. Maybe I'm getting just too pessimistic, but I could see both. Certainly, when you look at the schedule, where are the surefire losses for either team?
Yeah, listen, this is a program thing. It's very hard for me to back Lane Kiffin on a week out basis of just, I don't think he's that. Listen, smart football mind, a guy who I'd like to have as OC running a program. He's a little too, kind of like a fun guy to hang out with, probably, dating a 27-year-old. Is he the guy that I feel like is going to have my team locked in like Kirby Smart and ready to win 11 games? No. I'm just not a Lane buyer in terms of like getting his team to a championship level, which is where you need to be to win 10 or 11 games. So I know schedule sets up all right, but I mean, they still got Georgia, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, a couple of road trips that aren't, SEC road trips that aren't easy, get automatic wins. So I'm not trying to talk you off 9.5 because it's probably, they do have an easy non-con and some gimmies to start, but I just believe that Lane is too much of a nonchalant guy to hit that level. So for me, it's a pass on Ole Miss.
Go look at Lane Kiffin's coaching record. It is literally a roller coaster. Win 10 or 11 one year, 5 the next, 10 or 11 the next year. I mean, it's just swings of 3, 4, 5 games each season, whether it was at USC, whether it was at Florida Atlantic, or even, I think the last time he won 10 games at Ole Miss, he had an 8-5 year following up. I know they went all in as far as what their roster looks like, but I can't get there. I just, something tells me that it's just a spring game. I didn't get the good vibe there when they had a dunk contest and a flag football game. That's
very Lane Kiffin.
It is. And people are like, oh, this is the future. This is how everyone's going to treat spring games now. I don't know. Again, I like Kirby, who kind of mentioned that when we get an opportunity to play football, we play football. I can't take a guy serious when that's his whole vibe. I don't think he's that serious on the recruiting trail either. Not my cup of tea. What is my cup of tea? Boy, Charles is a fan. Brad's minor in meteorology from BG coming in handy finally. Yeah, I did take some weather classes. I did not minor. I minored in history, but I did take a bunch of meteorology classes. I like the weather. I don't know how you can't, especially in our industry. It's everything late in the week. You got any closing thoughts? I know we got a little jumbled there. Obviously, Texas under 10.5.
Yeah,
Way down the
like the
Michigan
Texas
total.
under. And then you know what? We're going to start. I know we'll start having our conference previews that we're going to start working on to get them out. And I agree. Yeah, it's good to fit. We got the chat bouncing around here, and
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're asking me about. I'm not going to be mentioning other programs and stuff. So yeah, I'll probably be on all those shows that people are asking. You going to be on this show? You going to be on that? Yeah, I'll probably do them all. But let's just focus. I'm focusing the now, the what. I'm not in some. I don't live in the past. I don't live in the future. In the right now, I'm doing a show with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish. That's all I care about at this moment, and the chat and your questions. So there we go. Under 10.5, Texas. Love that. Hopefully that comes home. But you're right. Got a lot of exciting things coming your way. We're going to do the conference previews. You're going to start, we're only 5-6 weeks away. We're going to start doing 2 shows a week. It's just, we're getting there. I could say that. Got the tour coming up. I'm excited about that. And that'll be that, man. Talk to you.
I was going to say, you're letting that guy, I don't even know who that was, but he's like, oh, I've been to 100 in this UMass. When I was like, is there this guy's are trying to show up BP here by saying he's been to 100?
Yeah, he started doing that after I was doing mine too. It's weird. But he does. He's an interesting fellow. He stays, he'll go to NBA games, WWE events, and he tries to be stay. It's weird. I'll just say this.
Stay until they kick him out.
Yeah, he does that kind of stuff. Guy. He's much more aggressive trying to get into like football offices and suites and stuff. I don't do that.
I didn't even realize it was him.
Yeah, it's him. I'm not like that. Like if there's a gate open, I'll walk in it and just walk on the field. I'm like in and out of there in like 5-10 minutes. I don't walk around the stadium, try to get in the press box and do all that kind of stuff. Yeah. That's not my cup of tea. I mean,
yeah, he does. That is it. Stays. How late can I stay until I got it. I mean, the guy probably needs a job or something. I don't know. I feel like there's I saw his UMass review and I was like, oh, I wonder if BP's been to UMass yet.
I'm not. I'll be going there pretty soon. I'll be doing a Northeast trip, but it's not a good one. I mentioned Kent State's the worst that I've been to. But one quick thing. That guy, the way he just rubs me the wrong way. He might get it. He might shut the whole operation down, because of doing stuff like that. They might get more stadium security and everything's locked up. So if you're doing what I'm doing, or just act like you've been there, done that. I don't know. I try not to make a scene. I do my little 2-minute thing, boom, bang, in, out. I would prefer a lot of these stadiums stay open where you can walk up to them. I just put it that way because I like doing it. Yep. No, I hear you. That's they might start locking the gates at some of these places. Yeah, that wouldn't be a good thing. Then there goes the tour. That is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish. Appreciate everybody that watched and commented and asked some questions as far as the chat. Again, thank you to Jason for filling in for Zach Phillips, who's on vacation. And that'll do it for Hit the Books, part of the Hammer Betting Network. Take care. We'll see you next Monday.